Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore positive. There is nothing that I think makes us feel more positive than maybe the notion of sports coming back, and certainly football next week. And John Harbaugh, I saw him out doing an FCA turn earlier this week as well with my pal Frank Kelly. But baseball is back. Luke Jones has been at the ballpark, wearing the mask, taking the test, getting his temperature taken. You can find all that out in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault. And the Baltimore Orioles will begin play this weekend at Fenway Park, which, I have not been sticking to sports, Bob Ryan, but for this segment, I am going back to my sports buddies. And, I probably went about 4 or 5 months without one sports guest and any sports conversation. About 3-4 weeks ago, after our election was done here in June and I decided to not run for mayor, I started to sort of call some of my sports buddies. And when the Orioles are playing in Boston, I have to call you, right? And these are the strangest and the weirdest of times, are they not?
No, we're living. I feel as if, and we're all living in a weird sci-fi movie, some dystopian society. We've seen all these. I don't watch them. I'm not into that stuff, but I know it's out there. And it's someone. You play this game. If someone had told you, If someone had told you on January 1st that certain things would have happened by July 22nd, you would have dismissed it as the workings of a Rod Serling kind of mind, and it's all come true. And we're not even close to the coming out of all this, not even close. And that's what we have to suck it up as a society and figure out how to get through it. And it would be unimaginable only 6 months ago.
Well, you're known for sports. It's how you fed your family. You walk the streets of Boston, anywhere in New England. They say, hey, there's Ryan from the Globe, ESPN, all over the country, airports. I'm known for sports. My last name's Aparicio, for crying out loud. And it's all we've ever done, right? Like I have gone back and looked at my date calendars back in the 80s and the 90s, and Oriole home games are in green and road games are in black, right? Camden Yards, 1992, when my radio career began here. We're now in the 29th year, and it just all stopped. And I had been preparing for a life, beyond sports for years and trying to have some variety in my conversations. And after Angelos took my press pass 15 years ago and nobody said anything or did anything, I looked at it and said, the world's bigger than this. My wife's almost died. But I never wanted it to go away. I never wanted it to stop, and certainly not when the Terps were in the top 10 before the tournament, Bob. But to have it stop, it really is Rod Serling. I'm waiting for it to stop. But saying that, they're going to try again. And I am the one saying, no, this is probably not don't do this. This isn't a good idea. This is giving everybody bad ideas. I don't think that they should be doing this because I don't think that they can complete it with integrity. Now, baseball, since when do they care about integrity, Bob? But, put a 60-game schedule. But the NFL thinking that they're really going to play 24 weeks of football and get to Tampa with the I just really think it's foolish.
Well, I think that the one sport that has its shot at getting its business accomplished somewhat safely is obviously basketball because of the bubble factor, and they have the others. In hockey, might pull it off with 2 bubbles, if you will, up in Canada and Edmonton and Toronto. But the other 2 will require travel, and going and they're not in a bubble and they're going home. And they're going to be in contact with people who were contacted people who were in contact with people, and that's can't be underplayed. That's the danger there, I think, compared to what the NBA is trying to pull off and what the NHL is trying to pull off. And then, of course, the inherent danger of football to start with, and the coast, it doesn't really seem to make a lot of intellectual sense to be playing football. And but the one, Nestor, the craziest one of all, that they really, come on, somebody, let's take a full timeout. Let's have a reality check. College football, please. The Ivies were right, and all these minor conferences, so non-Division I conferences are right. And we know there's only one. There's two reasons why they want to play. One is the money. Naturally, there's TV money available, and money is precious, and we all understand that. And the other is the cultural importance of college football in certain areas of the country. Not the one I live in, but certainly in other areas of the country.
You mean you don't need BC to play next week, Bob?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. So,
I think
we're
we're wondering what the value is. What is the
college football? And then the idea of which was the debate that was in the beginning of the discussion, which was, can you even morally justify having athletic events on the campus when there aren't any other students? And and so many colleges are in the virtual circumstance of and not going to have classrooms as we know them at all. I don't know. I just think colleges are kidding themselves. But there is an incredible, large amount of money at stake. I understand all that. So that's the one that I think is absolutely insane.
Well, this has been crisis management for everybody, for the Ryan family, for the Aparicio family, for every company, right? So here we are 6 months into this, and they're going to gather down at Fenway and play baseball. And
without fans.
Without fans, fair enough. And we did that in Baltimore back in 2015, Bob. I'm sure you read about it.
I'm well aware of
it. And I said then, and I've been saying for 5 years, and I told Kevin Cowherd this, it was a bad idea that day. It's still a bad idea. We've watched from Japan, we've watched from Taiwan and South Korea, and we've watched in Europe them play a whole soccer season and sort of successfully pull it off. I think sports sort of lends itself to next man up. Hey, that guy caught the virus. Oh, he's down for a couple of weeks. We'll just bring somebody up from the minors. I do wonder about the whole structure of these 60 games. I wonder about the future of baseball. I wonder what they're doing in minor league towns like Bowie and Norfolk and Salisbury and these places. I just think baseball, amidst this pandemic, the leadership of baseball and the crisis management part, they've never really been good at all that. This has been particularly fraught with problems, I think, and PR problems and real-world problems, but more than that, future problems with their help.
Well, there's a couple of separate discussions here. The immediate discussion about how we react to the COVID-19 in every aspect of all our lives, whether it's sports or entertainment or politics or any or just normal daily life of people. That's one, clearly. Baseball has its own separate issue, and you touched upon it, and it troubles me greatly, which is the destruction of the minor leagues. And that's what we're going to be facing when this thing is over. The 42 teams that they're talking about eliminating, and the whole restructuring and concept of how we develop baseball players and the minor leagues. I'm very fond and very proprietary toward the minor leagues. My first baseball book in 1973 was about minor league baseball, called "Wait Till I Make the Show," and it was I had traveled extensively from Trois-Rivières, Quebec to Honolulu, who had a franchise then, in all classifications, examining what made minor league baseball tick. And that was then, and this is now, and it's still an important part of a social fabric of many communities in America, and it's an important part of keeping baseball's interest in general terms alive. And the myopia at the top, the glee with which they were getting ready to attack and destroy the minor leagues, it saddens me. You're right. Baseball is not in the hands of people who are capable of looking out for its best interest. That's another. The other sports don't have this issue. They got to. But baseball, when this is all said and done, and even if we had a magic vaccine and we were all happy tomorrow morning, Nestor, baseball would be having a nightmare, a mess on its hand because of what they're doing to the minor leagues.
The great Bob Ryan is here from the Boston Globe, emeritus. He's still sort of working, and certainly still talking sports with us as the Red Sox head off to Boston this week. I want to move to football, and we talk about baseball having sort of an existentialist crisis with minor leagues and who's playing the game and the Latin Rim and Asia and all of that stuff. Football's going to have its own issue with kids not playing and safety. Then there is this part where, and I keep saying Lamar Jackson's mother because I want to make that point clear. We're the best football team, Bob. You're not the best football team anymore. Tom Brady's down in Tampa. We're 14-2. We've got 7 players in the top 100. We've got the genius coach. We've got the well-run organization. We've got the rest of the division down. I should want to put. I'm a Ravens fan, Bob. I should want them to go play. For all the reasons you pointed out earlier, I know where these guys pump gas. I know where they go to get fried chicken at Royal Farms, and I know they move around, and I know that we're talking about sending their kids back to school now, and some of their wives are teachers, and some of their mothers are teachers, and they want to fly in and be at games and be a part of families. I just think this is really, really a bad idea for football, and I've said this the last couple of weeks. Where else in our society would we sanction 22 men to roll around in the mud chasing a piece of leather so we can gamble on it and have entertainment on Sunday afternoons in the middle of a plague? There'd be no workplace where this would be sanctioned, and yet we're going through with this because we're America, and that's what we do.
Well, it's it is the new national pastime, and it is America's number one sporting preoccupation, and people miss it. We'll miss it if it's not there. And you're right. I've expounded myself on football many times. I kidding, not kiddingly, but I mean half facetiously, but only half. Say that if I were to present to you my idea for a new game out of context, and I presented you the object of the game and the rules of the game and the fact that there would be these massive collisions of these 350-pound people and the brutality of the game, and your first instinct would be, this is legal. I mean, people, when you step back and take a look at football, it's a barbaric exercise. But we love it, and we have codified it. We have codified a barbaric exercise. It's called football, and in some ways it's more dangerous than others because of the physics involved with the size of the people and the athleticism involved, and the collisions are much more frightful than they were in 1938. On the other hand, we've got better helmets, we got better equipment. We got better medical help. So does it balance off? You be the judge. I don't know. But yeah, but that football people, 90% of football fans, 99%, have never stepped back and examined what is this game anyway. They just know they like it.
Bob Ryan is our guest. He is Globe Bob Ryan. You can follow him out on Twitter. The Orioles headed off to Boston, and for football taking over New England, and I had Greg Bedard on last week, and we were just chatting, and I said, the Red Sox always owned Boston. My wife was from Manchester, the whole family. I've been going to Boston for, 35, 40 years now to see baseball and football and basketball and Billy Joel concerts and Tom Petty concerts and all sorts of things. And I'm like, there's the Red Sox and everything else. The Patriots have done so much winning. The NBA is sort of the global game now, and Boston and Bird and, going back into Cousy and all of that stuff. Where does it rank right now, Bob? And especially with Brady gone and Belichick there, what's the hierarchy in Boston?
The number one story arc of my career, which began in Boston in 1964 as a freshman at Boston College, is the rise of the Patriots from number 4, and I mean a distant and clear number 4, as recently as 1992. And the turning point in their career and their history was when James Bush Orthwine, who people feared was and did try really to move the team to St. Louis, but it just didn't work out, hired Bill Parcells, giving the team instant credibility in the eyes of the football population such as it existed in Boston. In 1992, the Patriots had 18,000 season ticket holders in a stadium that seats 61,000. I can tell you that when I was doing the sports reporters in Manhattan on Sunday mornings, and I would fly back on the 11 o'clock shuttle to Boston, to Logan, get in my car, and drive the 20-some miles down to Foxborough, that there would be no traffic and I would be in my seat by game time. And that's where they were. And
I went to a game in 1989. I was an Oiler fan, and my girlfriend and I drove up there, and it was the Warren Moon era. And I went up there, and I'm looking for an attendance because I'm looking at the box score to see if they actually announced the attendance or still put the things on there. But there was nobody there. I mean, it was.
And we had the blackout situation. It was frequent. Now he hires Parcells. Anyone who was around who could tell you the phones started ringing that day. They started ringing about season tickets, and we have never looked back. Now, he got the team to the Super Bowl in a couple of years, and they had a what if game with the Packers where one kickoff return and turned the game around. But they put up a good show. They weren't embarrassed as they had been in the 10 years earlier by the Bears. Anyway, Then comes Pete Parcells and gets into a turf battle with Bobby Greer, who was backed by the PR director. The personnel director, backed by Kraft. And I should be able to shop for the groceries, blah, 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 blah. And they have a divorce, and he goes to the Super Bowl, and he acts like an ass and has a stupid press conference, and they have a dog and pony show. It was embarrassing. Anyway, we knew he was leaving. He lied. He was disingenuous. He was talking to the Jets the whole time. Everybody knew it. All right, fine, he's gone. Here comes Pete Carroll, the cheerleader, the camp counselor, which is what he is. And oh yeah, better face and happy, and they were good the first year. They're not so good the second year, and horseshit the third year. Excuse me. And sorry. And then he goes, and then of course we get Belichick. And so now to answer your story, they're number one. The Red Sox have fallen to 2. There's no more 1 and 1A. It's 1 and 2, and they're and that's the way it is. We're no different than any other city in America. And now we were always different. We're not different now. Football is the Patriots, because of all their phenomenal success. Football is the currency. Baseball is still important, and the Red Sox have won 4 times. That's the other thing. This is taking place while the Red Sox have, quote unquote, broken the curse. They've won 4 championships, and if someone had told you that, the old if game, that they would win 4 championships and they would be number 2 in Boston 15 years ago, you never would have believed it. But that's where we are.
Bob, how many games did you watch at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore? And I want to take your head back to the first day you walked into Camden Yards.
For the sake of argument, 10.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. I
loved it. I loved the crab cakes, by the way. That was the highlight.
I'll get you down to Faithley's.
Crab cakes in the press room.
No doubt about it. I had Rick Vaughn on last week, and I had Kevin Byrne on last week, and talking about the 90s and where we are. Camden Yards, the 30-year lease expires next year, Bob. So you just gave the story of this woeful, pitiful little NFL team about to shuttle off to St. Louis in 1992, and the Gillettes and the Schaefers and all that nonsense that was going on. How about the Baltimore Orioles and Cal Ripken and Camden Yards and owning the Mid-Atlantic area and not having a team in Washington, right? And this purple team comes here in 1995, the former Cleveland Browns, Art's kicking the dogs, right? How are the purple Barney Birds of Vinny Testaverde ever going to catch on in Baltimore? How will they ever compete with Cal Ripken and Brooks and Boog and Frank and all of the Eddie and all? And here we are. I mean, the Orioles are playing in Boston this week. I'm calling you because you're an old guy and I'm an old guy and I'm an Aparicio and the baseball thing is just. I'm really worried, Bob. I mean, they're going to have to negotiate a lease here. The Washington Nationals don't just exist. They're the world champions now, right? So there's a whole different paradigm here for the future of Baltimore politically. Who's coming to the ballpark? I had John Charleston a couple weeks ago. You know what they did down there? They just moved the team out of the city and they built them a palace out in the suburbs. That's not happening in Baltimore. At some point, the franchise here has to fend for itself, and at some point, I would think baseball has to do that in 30 different outposts. And to me, these 60 days are a little bit about not letting the flame go out for baseball, because I think it's real easy to let the flame go out for baseball in a lot of places. The flame's already out.
I worry greatly about baseball. The demographics, the average age, they say, is in the high 50s. The young people don't have the attention span. They don't have the interest in it. Of course, we've lost the African American community. Once they were a mainstay of talent supply. God knows where the National League would have been without Mays and Aaron and Frank Robinson and so forth in the 60s and 70s. And Roy Campanella, on and on and on. The first wave of great black players that came into baseball.
I'll throw McCovey in there too. I'll give you.
Yeah, I'm just saying. So, but we have this problem. We've lost that talent supply, and lost them to both the football and the basketball. Okay, yeah, baseball has enormous problems. Here's one thing. Let's just jump a little bit, broaden it a little bit.
Sure.
But I was a history major, Nestor, and I really think in historical terms. And this country is not that old. This republic, since 1776, in the arc of history, is still relatively young. And we see the upheaval right now. We're having things happen that nobody alive has ever seen before happen in Washington, D.C. So, we're in turmoil. There's no question. Baseball's run started roughly in the 1840s and peaked somewhere in the 20th century, and now it's been overtaken by football and basketball and NBA. But point is, nothing is forever. Now, here's one for you. Do you realize? Well, two things. Number one, in the late 19th century, a very, very big sport was indoor cycling, six-day bike racing. And there was a very, very famous cyclist, Major Taylor, a great black athlete that there's books out about him. It was a big deal. Rowing was big. And up to 1960, here's where I'm going, at least roughly. In the first 60 to 65 years of the 20th century, the three biggest sports in America, no question, no argument, anyone who is a student of sports history knows this: baseball, boxing, and horse racing. Those were the big three. Then you draw a line. Then you can start arguing. What's next? Okay? Well, I don't have to tell you what's happened to boxing and horse racing. And there's baseball losing its grip. Nothing is forever. And you alluded to football earlier. You're right, this participation thing. I've said for 15 years, Nestor, the mothers of America could shut football down tomorrow. The mothers of America could say, he ain't playing. My boy's not playing. Period. End of story. And in certain areas of the country, they are saying that. But certainly it's going to be the last bastion will be the South and the Midwest. But so nothing's forever in any of this. And now, with the pandemic, look at business. I mean, all these office buildings and that whole crisis of how the stay at home and work and how our complete social life and working life are going to be different. Will restaurants ever be back the way they were? When will they be back? Et cetera, et cetera. Sport's not immune to this. But over and above it, we've got this issue that we're talking about. Tastes change. Things change. What if somebody told you about esports 15 years ago? You go, what? What are you talking about?
I still don't know anything about esports.
Well, I don't care about it. I don't care about UFC either, but it's popular. It's more popular than boxing. I know that. I mean, I know a lot of things I don't relate to these things, but I know they're out there, and I acknowledge that millions of people are interested in stuff. Point is, tastes can change. Baseball could be Baseball could be gone by 2040. Football could be gone by 2050 and replaced by something else. People that have to get this in their head.
Well, you know what? You got me Googling Major Taylor and cycling in Montreal and Marshall Walter Major. Yeah, I learn things when I have Bob Ryan on. He was a history major. This is why I bring him on, because I learn stuff around here. A wise conversation. At Globe Bob Ryan. The way to find Bob Ryan. He's, I call you emeritus, retired. What are you doing in the middle of a pandemic?
I gave myself I'm a columnist emeritus at the Globe at the moment. I'm not even that because due to the pandemic, they had to put me on the shelf until they get back to normal, and I understand that. I do still have two podcasts, one with Mike Lippican, Mitch Albom, and one with Jeff Goodman, and that keeps me active in the scene. And I write for Basketball Times, which I've been doing since 1976. If you like basketball, you need Basketball Times. So there's my commercial.
Well, and is there a commercial for the NBA in here somewhere that they're playing and they might make it? And in the end,
bubble. I mean, the bubble thing. They were trumpeting the results of the test the other day that they're doing well with testing. Nobody, if people abide by the rules and how about the snitch line? I love it. I love the snitch line. And I also love they caught Dwight Howard, that big clown. They caught him. I'm glad, because there's a waste of space right there. The guy that should have been a Hall of Famer. I know he's got all these accolades and he's Player of the Year, defensive. He's a waste of space, but that's another story.
Bob, do you like the NBA as much as you used to, like when you just sit and watch the game?
No, I don't. And I made my career, Nestor. I made my career of sport. The three-point mania has distorted the game. And I want a balance. I want some inside play. I want a balance. I don't want 50 three-point attempts by it. I mean, that's not the game I grew up with. No, it's not I don't enjoy it as much. No.
Well,
and
Bob,
it's a shame because we've got the best athletes we've ever had playing it, and there's a possibility of this game being really. But I mean, it all comes down to a three-point shooting contest. 2 out of 3 nights or more. That doesn't captivate me the way the game did. In its peak, which of course was anybody who knows anything knows was the '80s.
Well, I mean, it's easy for us to get cranky about it, but the Orioles are playing the Red Sox this weekend. There'll be no fans, no sounds. They'll be piped in. The broadcasts are so incredibly flat. You talk about esports and all the action young people need. It's incredibly. It feels like watching cricket in another language. Watching these exhibition games earlier this week here on Masson, and yet the baseball thing. You talk about strategy. My God, baseball's just a different game. Like if you put it on the shift and the home run and the strikeout. I prefer basketball. At least there's some art to 3-point shooting that I don't see in the shift. I don't feel that in baseball.
Well, the shift isn't obviously when you look at the success that the shift has, you say what took it so long, and that because baseball is always slow to change. It is a bothersome thing. I don't enjoy that as much. That game as much as in it, and I've been following baseball. I was in baseball uniform when I was 2 years old. I'm telling you, the 3 outcome game now. The strikeout, the walk, or the home run. That it's not as much fun. There's no question. It's interesting. We're talking about the one game. I don't know what hockey fans are. I don't know if they have any complaints about the game. I don't think there's any major complaints about the way hockey has evolved. I mean, I think it's evolved nicely. But football is the one game of them for sure. It's only gotten better, I think. We are in a golden age of wide receivers. The athleticism, the things that they do with making catches in this game are phenomenal to me. The quarterback's accuracies are so much better than they were 50 years ago. The bigger, better athletes. I think football is the one game that if I'm a football fan, I'm seeing this game being played the best it's ever been played. Whereas if I'm a baseball or basketball fan, which I am both, I feel that the game is lost something, and I'm not sure where hockey fans fit.
That's fascinating. I'm a hockey fan, and I think there's a different kind of play if you go back and look at the Russian teams in the 70s and early 80s and the width of the rink and how much space there is behind the net and how big the zones are. I would agree with you. I think hockey feels fast and lively, and I feel like basketball should have raised the net a long time. That dunking became too easy, that they could have done different things. They could have moved the fences back in baseball. Instead, they moved them in. There was all sorts of things they could have done to keep baseball lively that football has done, quite frankly. Football has moved goalposts around and done things in my lifetime that has made it more interesting, I think.
It's funny, every time you see an old picture or a video of the game with the goalposts on the goal line.
Yeah.
And we all lived through that. I mean, I lived through that.
It made for bloopers, but they looked really
painful.
painful.
You talk about it's like Neanderthal football, but that was the way it was. No, I think football's done a good job of adjusting. And of course the big, the referee thing. Well, look, in every sport, I don't care if we go back and in 21-20, we're going to be talking about referees and everything else. So that part of sports, that's the one ongoing dynamic that never changes is complaining about the officials in any sport.
Bob, love you, appreciate you. Stay healthy, wash your hands, wear a mask. Mm-hmm. Tell Mitch Albom that I love him and my wife loves his books too. And
okay.
we'll watch baseball. We're gonna watch, right? You're gonna watch.
And by the way, I'm going to put in a plug for our guys. Our broadcasts are still interesting because we've got Jerry Remy and Dennis Eckersley paired together every game now, and they are a hoot. They're a hoot. They were teammates that liked each other. Eckersley is delightfully goofy, and it's so we've got a fun broadcast. So we're lucky that way.
We've had Jim Palmer for a generation, even amidst Angelos's darkest moments. Palmer would always call bullshit on anything. Basically, he was unfireable in that way. We had Brooks before that, but we had John Miller when Angelos ran him out.
They don't get me started. One of the biggest goof, errors ever in Boston history was they let John Miller get away here and didn't even appreciate what they had no idea what they had.
Well, we knew what we had and didn't appreciate it, but they appreciate him in San Francisco. Bob, take care of yourself. Eat some of that good pizza up there.
Okay.
Stay safe, okay?
All right, Nestor. Bye-bye.
Bob Ryan, the man, the myth, the legend, one of my favorites. Globe Bob Ryan. You can find him out on Twitter. He's emeritus, sort of, kind of, but he opines, and just one of my favorite people. And it's always time well spent with Bob Ryan of the Boston Globe. Globe Bob Ryan, the way to find him. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. I'm everywhere you are. Building a bigger and better Baltimore Positive. Shh, don't tell anyone. You can email me, nasty@WNST.net. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. Calm, local, waiting for the Orioles, and Baltimore positive.